She was winning 5-1. Then Ostapenko did the unthinkable, and the tennis world is still talking. Picture this. A packed arena in Linz, Austria. Filipino fans draped in flags, screaming at the top of their lungs. A 20-year-old from the Philippines, a country that had never produced a WTA top 100 player before she came along, standing on a clay court, 5 games to 1 up in the second set, 1 foot already through the door to victory. The crowd is absolutely electric. The math is practically settled. The upset is brewing. The Grand Slam champion on the other side of the net is leaking double faults, her body language screaming surrender. And then, in one of the most jaw-dropping, baffling, and frankly suspicious reversals tennis has seen in years, everything falls apart. Not because of a tactical masterclass, not because of a sudden surge in brilliant tennis, but because of a confrontation with a spectator that lasted less than 2 minutes and somehow rewrote the entire match. Welcome to the Jelena Ostapenko playbook. And if you think what happened in Linz was just a player losing her cool, then you have never watched John McEnroe break down a psychological chess match in real time. Buckle up, because this story goes so much deeper than a scoreline. Let's start from the very beginning, because context is everything here, and you need the full picture to truly appreciate what unfolded at the Design Center Linz on April 9, 2026, during the second round of the WTA 500 Upper Austria Ladies. Alexandra Ila is not your typical tennis story. Born on May 23, 2005 in Quezon City, Philippines, she began playing tennis at the age of 4. International Business Times. At just 12 years old, she earned a scholarship to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Monaco, Spain. PEP.PH. Think about that. 12 years old. Packed her bags, left her family, crossed the ocean, and went to live and breathe elite tennis in Spain under one of the most prestigious programs on the planet. A lefty like the 22-time major winner Nadal himself, Ila demonstrated both clean ball striking and incredible composure. Yahoo Sports. Her junior career peaked with the 2022 U.S. Open girls singles title, marking her as a generational talent from Southeast Asia. International Business Times. But junior titles are one thing. The senior tour is an entirely different beast. And for years, the question hovering over Ila was simple. Can she make the jump? The answer arrived in March 2025 with the kind of explosion that sends shockwaves through an entire sport. She arrived at the Miami Open on a wild card when she was ranked number 140 in the world. Few could have predicted that she would leave the United States as one of the biggest sensations on the tour. Rafael Nadal Academy. She didn't just sneak through a few rounds. She went on an absolute rampage. She stunned former French Open champion and 25th seed Jelena Ostapenko in the second round, beating her 7-6, 7-5. Tennis 365, then she kept going. She made history as the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, and became the first player ranked outside the top 100 to defeat Swiatek in 4 years. Yahoo Sports. IGA Swiatek. The world number 1. The most dominant clay court player of her generation. Beaten by a teenager from the Philippines who showed up on a wild card. Commentators likened her influence on Philippine sport to boxer Manny Pacquiao. Wikipedia. That is not hyperbole. That is the scale of what this young woman represents to an entire nation. Her year-end ranking for 2025 was a career high of 50th in the world. She made history by becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal and the first to enter the WTA World Top 100 ranking. WTA. And heading into 2026, she didn't slow down. Entering March 2026 at number 32, Ila sat more than 100 spots higher than the same time in 2025. International Business Times. She is not a flash in the pan. She is a legitimate force reshaping the entire landscape of women's tennis. And every time she steps onto a court, she carries the hopes of an entire country on her shoulders. So when she arrived in Linz for the clay season opener, ranked 46th in the world, carrying a 2-0 head-to-head record against Jelena Ostapenko, the stage was set for something special. And for the better part of 2 sets, that's exactly what we got. Now let's talk about Ostapenko, because she is one of the most fascinating and complicated figures in women's tennis, and you cannot understand what happened in Linz without understanding exactly who she is and how she operates. Ostapenko faced a tough challenge against Ilya at the WTA 500 event, having lost both previous encounters against the 20-year-old. Newsbreak: the Miami Open in 2025 was the first defeat. Then Eastbourne, where retirement handed Ilya the win without even finishing the match. 2 losses, 0 victories against a player who wasn't even in the top 100 when their rivalry began. For a Grand Slam champion, a former top 10 player, a Linz title holder with every reason to expect dominance against an emerging talent, that record stings in a very specific, very personal way. She arrived in Austria with something to prove, and from the very first game, the tension of that motivation was written all over the match. Ilya settled quickly, both players holding serve comfortably through the opening games, before the Filipino began tilting baseline exchanges in her favor. A clean break gave her a 4-2 lead in the opening set. Here is a player ranked 46th in the world, dictating terms against a top 25 Grand Slam champion on clay, which is historically Ostapenko's best surface. That is not a small statement. That is a declaration. Then came the first momentum swing. Ostapenko gradually raised her level when it mattered most, reducing errors and applying consistent pressure from the baseline to turn the match around. Yardbarker, 4 consecutive games. First set sealed 6-4. Nothing sinister there. Momentum swings happen in tennis. Players elevate when the pressure rises. But watch what happens in that second set, because this is where the story becomes genuinely uncomfortable to explain through conventional match analysis. Ilya came out of the changeover transformed. Whatever tactical adjustment she made between sets worked immediately. She opened the second set with a 4-0 lead. 4 consecutive games, 2 clean service breaks. Ostapenko visibly rattled, leaking unforced errors, her body language broadcasting exactly the kind of discomfort that experienced observers recognize immediately. The Filipino crowd inside the arena was going absolutely berserk. Filipino flags waving, chants echoing off the walls. Ilya was feeding off the roaring support of the crowd, mostly Filipinos who had turned out to cheer her on. Manila Bulletin: at 5-1, with Ostapenko serving, the match wasn't just trending toward an Ilya victory. It felt mathematically inevitable, not definitively over. Tennis has seen comebacks from 5-1, but the momentum, the crowd energy, the weight of the scoreboard, all pointed firmly toward a third set at minimum, with Ilya firmly in the driver's seat. And then it happened. The crowd was largely behind Ilya, and at 4-1 down, Ostapenko seemed to single out one spectator. She appeared to motion for the person to come down and play in her place, in what seemed a sarcastic gesture implying she could take pointers from them. Yahoo Sports. She confronted the fan in the crowd, sarcastically inviting them to take her racket and demonstrate how to play. Go. Take the racket and then I will look how you play. Go play tennis. Go here now. Go play, Ostapenko said. Pro Football Network. She then flagged the tournament official, pointed toward the spectator section, made clear she wanted intervention if the behavior continued. The entire sequence took less than 2 minutes in real time. Those 2 minutes functionally ended Alexandra Ilya's match. The moment appeared to shift Ostapenko's momentum entirely. Trailing 5-1 in the second set, she regrouped to win the match in straight sets and reached the final 8. Just women's sports. From the resumption of play after that confrontation, Ostapenko won every single remaining game. 6 consecutive games. The 5-1 lead that had felt insurmountable dissolved completely. Ilya couldn't hold serve, couldn't convert return opportunities, couldn't recapture the baseline dominance she had displayed for the previous 40 minutes of that set. Final score: 6-4, 7-5 to Ostapenko. The match that looked like a coronation for a rising superstar became a footnote in a veteran's comeback story. Now here is where John McEnroe enters the conversation. And when McEnroe speaks on this particular subject, you have an obligation to sit down and listen very carefully. McEnroe spent the better part of his professional career being accused of exactly this kind of calculated on-court disruption. His legacy contains documented examples of using confrontations with officials, linespeople, and crowds as psychological weapons. Not always consciously, not always deliberately, but effectively, consistently and devastatingly. He built an entire career on understanding the psychological leverage that manufactured chaos provides on a tennis court. When he watched Ostapenko work through that sequence at 4-1 down in 1540, her most desperate moment of the match, he didn't see a player losing her temper. He saw a player executing a strategy. He recognized the pattern the way a master locksmith recognizes exactly how someone picked a lock. The difference between a genuine emotional outburst and a calculated interruption isn't always visible to the naked eye. But the timing tells the story. You don't accidentally have your biggest emotional explosion at the single moment you need most to disrupt your opponent's rhythm, reset the psychological temperature of the match, and manufacture a momentum shift that your ground strokes alone are failing to produce. That's not coincidence. That's craft. And McEnroe went off about it. Publicly. Forcefully. With the moral authority of someone who has both used and suffered from exactly this kind of gamesmanship throughout his entire career.